Have you ever walked into a room and, before you even had a chance to sit down, everything just felt different? Nobody turned to look. No one greeted you. No one even said your name. But somehow, you felt the energy shift. The room got quieter. The air felt thicker. What he meant is that you're not just skin and bones. Your vibration, your presence, your energy. And when that energy is pure, powerful, and aligned, you don't just enter a space. You interrupt it. You stir it up. You wake it. You become the kind of person who, without even trying, exposes the fake and inspires the real to rise. People straightened their backs, shifted in their seats. Some looked downright uncomfortable, while others just stared. That wasn't in your head. That wasn't your imagination. That was your aura. It arrived before your footsteps did. It spoke before you ever opened your mouth. When your energy is truly aligned, your silence is louder than the noisiest person in the room. People feel you before they even hear you. They might not even remember your name, but they'll remember how your presence made them feel. Powerful, calm, curious, maybe even a little threatened. It confidently whispers, "I'm not here to put on a show. I'm here to be real." That kind of truth. It's magnetic. It's rare. And in a world full of masks and performances, it's unforgettable. Why do some people lean in with curiosity, while others pull back with judgment or even a little hostility? Because when you walk into a room as your authentic self, you disrupt the norm. You're just being real, and in today's world, authenticity is almost revolutionary. It's about mastering your own energy so completely that your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back truth, confidence, and authenticity. In a world addicted to filters and facades, that level of honesty becomes a silent threat. But here's the twist: you're the kind of person who unknowingly brings that shadow into the light. Not by force, not by judgment, but simply by living as your full, unapologetic self. That's real power. That's what makes you unshakable. You walk with purpose, not to intimidate, but because you found meaning. And when people who haven't done that inner work come near you, they feel the gap. Their insecurities have nowhere to hide. People don't forget the ones who make them feel something. Maybe a stray cat curls up at your feet. A child you've never met beams a smile at you. Sometimes, it feels like even the wind is gentler when you're alone. Nature doesn't care about performance. It simply aligns with those who carry stillness in their soul. Because your aura isn't loud, doesn't scream for attention, doesn't fake happiness or try to be perfect. It just is. And in its quietest form, truth becomes the most powerful language on earth. You weren't born to be palatable. You were born to be powerful. But when you walk in with calm, real energy, you become a sanctuary in a world starving for peace. In a society addicted to pretending, you are authenticity. And the natural world feels that. It bows to that. Because truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to be felt. That's why animals linger. Why children feel safe. Why trees seem to sway a little softer. You're not trying to control or impress. You're simply being. And in your being, there's harmony. Your job isn't to protect people from their own shadows. It's to keep shining, so they finally realize it's safe to look within. Sometimes, the way a dog relaxes by your side or a child reaches for your hand says more about your soul than any applause ever could. You are connected. You are grounded. You are real. And the world, especially its purest parts, can feel it. Your presence is a wake-up call, and only the awake will understand your language. But what they're really saying is, "I'm not ready to face my own shadow," and you make it impossible to ignore. It's like there's something about you they can't quite put their finger on, but they know it's real. Your presence alone becomes a mirror, reflecting back what others have been avoiding within themselves. You didn't choose to trigger their wounds. You just chose to heal your own. And your healing naturally highlights the places where others still need to grow. That's not your burden to carry. That's their invitation to rise. They feel in your presence what they've been hiding from their own shadow. And the moment your light touches that shadow, the discomfort begins. And unlike humans, who judge based on appearances, achievements, or status, animals, children, and nature don't care about those things. They don't listen to your words. They read your vibration. They sense whether your energy is pure or polluted, safe or chaotic. When your aura is real, grounded, and calm, they respond with trust and connection. And for many, that's terrifying. Your honesty disarms them. Your confidence unsettles them. Your raw, unapologetic energy threatens the masks they've been carefully wearing for years. It sent a silent, undeniable message. I'm not here to blend in. It's about being so genuine that anything fake can't survive around you. Maybe, just maybe, you weren't born to fit into rooms. Maybe you were born to transform them. And in this video, we're going to break down 13 signs that prove your energy isn't just different. It's electric. It's disruptive. It's divine. I'm here to be seen. I'm here to be felt. Carl Jung once said, "The psyche transcends the body." This isn't about being loud. It's not about aggression. So if you've ever felt out of place, if you've noticed people reacting to you in ways you can't explain, this message is for you. But you caught those subtle glances, not because of what you're wearing, not because of your status, but because of something deeper, something unspoken. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Your presence is loud, even in silence. Have you ever entered a room and just felt the atmosphere change? Nobody said a word. No one made a big deal. That's presence. You don't have to talk. You don't have to explain yourself. That kind of presence doesn't need anyone's approval. Why does this happen? Because your psyche, your energy, enters the space before your body does. Your aura carries authority. It doesn't ask for permission. Just remember, presence isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being the most aligned. Chapter 2. You trigger shadows in others. Ever notice how some people are drawn to you while others seem almost uncomfortable, even if you haven't said a word? Here's the truth, and it might surprise you. You're not doing anything wrong. When you walk into a room with clarity in your eyes and honesty in your spirit, you don't have to say a word to make an impact. They see in you the parts of themselves they've silenced. You're not out there trying to trigger anyone. You're not picking fights. Your energy is just too honest, too awake, too pure. We all carry a shadow. Carl Jung called it the part of ourselves we reject, suppress, and bury deep. You speak with conviction, not because you're trying to be better than anyone, but because you've worked hard to heal. That's when the projections start. They'll say you're too intense, too much, too confident, too direct. Don't shrink yourself. Don't dim your light. You're not responsible for other people's discomfort. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them misunderstand. Chapter 3. Animals, children, and nature gravitate toward you. Have you ever noticed how the world responds to you when nobody's watching? That's not a coincidence. That's energy. Animals don't need explanations. They know when someone's heart is kind. Kids don't need credentials. They know when someone's presence feels warm. That's you. We live in a world full of noise, fake smiles, forced laughter, constant performance. In a world of overstimulation, you are stillness. Never underestimate the silent validation of life around you. Chapter 4. You intimidate without trying. You don't walk into a room to prove anything. You're not trying to be the loudest. You're not begging for validation. You just carry yourself with calm eyes, steady breath, and a presence that doesn't waver. Yet, almost instantly, the atmosphere changes. People straighten up. They start laughing a little too hard, talking a little too much. Deep down, you can sense their unease, even though you haven't said a single word. Why does this happen? Because in a world trained to respect noise, your silence is a power move. In a culture obsessed with appearances, your authenticity is a quiet threat. You're not trying to intimidate anyone. You're not puffing your chest or faking confidence. But you're not hiding either, and that alone rocks people to their core. But the moment you walk into a room, something subtle but undeniable happens. The air feels different. Conversations shift. People's postures change. The energy in the room adjusts, and you haven't even said a word. Not because you call them out, but because you exist in a space full of masks without wearing one yourself. It's not about what you do. It's about what you are. A moving field of truth, a walking reflection of alignment. Your aura speaks before you ever open your mouth, and the world listens even if it doesn't understand why. That's why they put up walls, why their laughter feels forced. Deep down, they know you see through it. But here's what you need to remember. You are not the villain in their story. Keep showing up exactly as you are. The right people will see your peace not as a threat, but as a compass, pointing them back to themselves. They feel safe or exposed, drawn in or shaken to their core. You're not just a person, you're a mirror, a portal, a reminder. And the energy doesn't lie. It responds to who you are every single time. No one said anything, everyone's smiling, everything looks normal. But deep inside, you can sense it. There's tension in the air, fake harmony behind the laughter. Someone's energy just doesn't match their words. That uneasiness in someone's posture, that flash of insecurity behind a compliment, that sudden shift in tone, you pick it all up, often without even trying. The real storm isn't what's outside, it's what you awaken inside. When your aura is clear, your perception sharpens. You start sensing people's emotional weather not from what they say, but from what their soul leaks. You revealed what was already there. You shift frequencies. You awaken truths. You bring the unseen to the surface. And that's not something you do. It's simply who you are. It's like you're fluent in an invisible language, body cues, micro-expressions, emotional frequencies. But deep down, you're exhausted. Not because you're shy, not because you're antisocial, but because every meaningless word chips away at your soul. And once you've tuned into that channel, you can't unhear it. Your spirit wasn't designed for empty conversations. You want to talk with people about dreams, wounds, purpose, fears. And in a world full of autopilot interactions, you were born to feel, to connect, to awaken. But the ones who are awake, they feel the magic in your depth. They feel the pull toward something real. And when you find those souls who speak the same unspoken language, the conversation feels like coming home. You start feeling physically distant, emotionally numb, because your system registers it as noise. You were built to tune into signal. You weren't made to blend in with the noise. You were made to echo truth in a world starving for meaning. You want to know what keeps them up at night, what sets their soul on fire, what parts of themselves they've been hiding. You sense the storm behind the "I'm fine." You want to dive deep into the heart, into the pain, into the truth. That's where your energy flows effortlessly. That's where your aura expands. And sometimes, this makes you different because you can't play along with surface-level small talk anymore. You crave depth. You crave truth. Shallow masks make your spirit itch. People may not be able to explain it, but they feel it deep in their bones. It stirs something in them, something ancestral, something spiritual, as if a long-lost memory of power, purpose, or pain just got awakened, and they don't even know what hit them. Your existence isn't an attack, it's a standard. Only those willing to rise will really get you. You're just the mirror, the reflection of everything they've tried to bury or ignore. Trust that awareness. Honor that intuition. While others are listening to voices, you're tuned into the frequency beneath them. And in that space, you don't just read people, you understand them, often better than they understand themselves. And while that may intimidate some, it also invites them to rise. See, when someone hasn't made peace with who they are, your presence exposes them. Your energy whispers, "I know who I am." And for those who haven't even started their healing journey, that kind of presence feels like pressure. It feels like exposure. It feels like a quiet storm walking through their performance. Your stillness says, "I've done the work." So they fidget, force smiles, fill the silence with noise, because sitting with what your presence brings up is just too much. You don't have to change. Don't soften your truth or dim your light. So, keep walking in your quiet power. Chapter 5. You shift the whole room's energy most of the time. You don't even realize it. You're just being you, calm, grounded, present. And you're left wondering, why do people get quiet? Why do they watch me or fumble over basic words? Here's the truth. You didn't just walk in, your frequency did. This isn't power through dominance. This isn't charisma through forced charm. This is vibrational presence. You don't need a spotlight. You don't need validation. You carry something ancient, something timeless. Your energy holds symbols, archetypes, codes, echoes from lineages long forgotten. You walk in like a gentle breeze, but you shift the space like a storm. Not loud, not aggressive, but absolutely undeniable. That's not magic. That's alignment. When your soul is rooted in truth, your presence naturally rearranges anything that isn't. People feel seen in ways they weren't ready for. So if people treat you differently, if they watch you or react strangely to your presence, know this: you didn't disturb the room. Chapter 6. You read people without words. You walk into a room, and instantly you just know something's off. And no, you're not being paranoid. You're not overthinking. You're just deeply aware. You don't need people to explain themselves, because you've already felt what they're too afraid to say. Carl Jung called it symbolic perception. A kind of deep intuitive intelligence that reads energy before it ever reads speech. It's not a superpower. It's not mystical. It's just the natural result of having done your own inner work. You feel the grief behind the grin. You notice the envy behind the praise. Some people call you intense or say you're too much, but really you're just honest energetically, and that's rare. In a world where everyone's trying to say the right thing, you're the one who feels the real thing. Chapter 7. Small talk drains you. You smile politely. You nod at the right times. You even toss out a yeah, crazy weather today, office drama, celebrity gossip. Pretending to care about someone's new cat video, it drains you, physically and emotionally. Your energy field craves substance. You don't want to talk about people. You need real, because your presence calls for presence. That's why small talk feels like static in your frequency. It's not just boring, it's suffocating. You don't want surface-level conversations. And sure, this makes you different. Not everyone gets it. Some people may call you intense, too serious, hard to talk to. So no, you're not antisocial. You're just allergic to the fake. Chapter 8. People project their darkness onto you. Your light isn't loud. You're not walking around trying to prove anything to anyone. But when you step into a room, it's not just the atmosphere that changes its people. Their tone, their energy, their behavior. Sometimes it shifts instantly, and suddenly you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Here's the truth, nothing. You didn't hurt them. You didn't disrespect anyone. But your presence disrupted something they were doing their best to keep hidden. When your light shines with clarity, it disturbs the darkness others are trying so hard to ignore. Not everyone is ready to see their own wounds. Not everyone wants to face their own lies. And you, without even trying, become the mirror that makes those shadows impossible to escape. You're only responsible for staying aligned with your own truth. Because you've learned something most people never do. Silence is power. And you, my friend, were never meant to dim just to make others feel safe in their darkness. You don't beg to be understood, because you're already at peace with yourself. It says, I'm not here to perform. I don't need to prove my worth. You are the quiet. Your silence isn't passive, it's active, it's potent. It confronts, it challenges, it reveals, it forces people to deal with themselves. So stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of mastery. Because when your silence carries truth, even the noisiest crowd eventually grows quiet. I'm listening, I'm watching, and I see everything. And that terrifies people, because most people talk to cover their fear. They get loud when they're insecure. They fill space with noise because silence exposes them. They'll feel safe, accepted, understood, maybe for the first time, because your presence doesn't judge. It invites. It opens. It says, come as you are, not as you're expected to be. While the world scrambles for attention, applause, and approval, you sit still, grounded. Present. Unshaken. You don't speak the language of fakeness. So when people show up with masks, performances, or manipulation, your aura quietly says, no thanks. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be found by the real ones. It doesn't yell. It doesn't push. It simply doesn't match. And energy never lies. You're here to wake them up. And sometimes that means they'll run from you before they ever rise. Let them. You repel what's not aligned, and you attract what's real. Your energy says, only the true may enter. You don't need to prove you're strong. You just are strong, because you've met the deepest parts of yourself and didn't flinch. Not because you're better, not because you're cold, but because you've worked too hard to protect your peace. They listen more closely when you speak, because your words carry weight. They don't understand how someone so still could be so strong, how someone so gentle could be so unbreakable. But no one ever forgets it, because a warrior's calm is rare. It's earned, and it radiates in ways the world can't fake. Your soul simply has no more space for anything that threatens it. But really, you just tuned into a different frequency, a frequency that doesn't need noise to hold power. And your calm? It's not the absence of war. It's the presence of someone who knows exactly who they are and no longer needs to fight to prove it. It is the calm of someone who has been through hell and didn't just survive, but evolved. Your peace is the product of every battle you've faced, and won without anyone even knowing. You've sat alone with your shadows, not to run, not to fight, but to understand. It draws in the rare souls who can meet you at your depth and keeps out the noise that never deserved your light in the first place. Your aura already spoke. Your energy already entered. Your presence already shifted the space. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be real. There's no need for loud declarations or an inflated ego, because the way you sit in silence speaks louder than most people's shouting ever could. So what do? Some project sudden hate, subtle jealousy, or cold silence. Some people will twist your words, doubt your intentions, or even mock your spirit, not because of who you really are, but because of what you unconsciously represent. You're a walking truth bomb. You challenge performances. You interrupt illusions. You carry an energy that can't be manipulated. And that scares people who depend on manipulation for their sense of control. You're not putting on a show. You're not begging to be liked. You're not shape-shifting to fit in. You simply exist as your raw, grounded, unfiltered self. And in doing that, your energy becomes a natural filter. They're either magnetically drawn to your energy, or they avoid you like their own reflection in a mirror they've spent years dodging. In your presence, they feel everything they've suppressed. You trigger their inner storm without saying a word. And so, some people pull away. Others come close, wearing admiration like a costume only to flip it into resentment when they realize you 1T shrink down for them. You don't play games. You don't wear masks. You don't pretend, and that makes those who do deeply uncomfortable. They look at you and feel exposed, because in your eyes they see everything they've buried. But don't let that change you. Don't start questioning your worth just because someone else can't face theirs. You are not responsible for their projections. Remember, the brighter the flame, the sharper the shadows it casts. Chapter 9. Your silence is louder than their noise. You don't raise your voice. You don't interrupt. You don't try to dominate every conversation. And your silence, it roars. You don't fight to be heard, because you don't need to. That silence says more than 1,000 words ever could. But you've made peace with the quiet. Some will mistake your silence for arrogance, or think you're distant, aloof, unbothered. You don't need to talk over anyone, because while others try to be the loudest voice, you've already become the deepest presence. Chapter 10. You attract real or repel fake instantly. There's no middle ground with you. People either lean in or they run. And the best part? You're not even trying. Some people will meet you and feel seen not for who they pretend to be, but for who they truly are. But others, they'll feel exposed, uncomfortable, triggered, because the version of themselves that you see is the one they've kept hidden for years. So while they may not understand why they feel uneasy around you, their soul knows you're not someone who tolerates fake. This is your gift, your internal compass, your invisible shield. It saves you from betrayal. It spares you from wasted time. So if people fall away from you without a clear reason, let them. It wasn't rejection, it was resonance doing its job. Chapter 11. You carry a warrior's calm. You don't need to brag. You don't need to flex. Your calm isn't passive. It's not the calm of someone who's never struggled. You've faced storms that could have broken you. You've walked through nights so dark that your own breath felt like thunder. That's why your energy feels so grounded. Why your presence settles the room or shakes it, depending on who's watching. You've learned the art of inner warfare. You've died and been reborn mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And now, your peace is power. People feel that. Some respect it. They see the quiet depth in your eyes and think, this person has been through something. They feel safe near you. Others fear it, because they've only ever known power that screams, not power that breathes. Don't ever mistake your softness for weakness. Your restraint is strength. Your stillness is strategy. You don't need a sword. You are the weapon sharpened by pain, polished by wisdom, powered by truth. Chapter 12. You heal without trying. You don't need the perfect words. You don't need a title, a label, or a therapist's license. The world is full of people walking around with invisible wounds, hearts packed with unsaid things, smiles hiding battles they're afraid to lose. It's not in what you say, it's in what you carry. Stillness, depth, a frequency of truth that reaches people in places words never could. But here's what makes your presence even more powerful. Your energy doesn't just soothe, it awakens. But when they step into your presence, something inside them unclenches. The masks start to crack. The walls start coming down. Their lives can't breathe anymore. Their unhealed stories begin to shake. And that can be terrifying. Because healing doesn't always feel soft. Sometimes it feels like being cracked open. And your presence has a way of doing that gently, but deeply. And simply by being who you are, you make people remember who they really are, too. That's the rarest healing of all. You weren't designed to shrink yourself to keep other people comfortable. You came here to wake people up, to shake systems built on illusion, to call the soul back home even if that means becoming the storm they never saw coming. Because while you heal without effort, you also challenge without intent. Not because you're dramatic, but because your truth exposes what's fake simply by existing. That's why some people love you instantly, and others can't stand you without even knowing why. It happens through disruption, through energy that refuses to play dead. You're here to disturb the fake, not to make peace with it. You've always felt different, too intense, too emotional, too real for a world of surface-level masks. It was meant to be felt loud, raw, and real. But that's not a flaw. That's your purpose. Welcome to the tribe. This is your space, your people, your truth. Because every time your aura collides with illusion, truth wins. And the world needs more of that, more of you. Because your energy threatens anything built on performance. Your presence stirs what's been asleep. You trigger reflection. You pull truths to the surface. You inspire people to drop the act even if they're not ready to face what's underneath. You don't even have to call anyone out, you just are. And that's enough to make the fake feel seen, exposed, unstable. Because you represent something rare, something wild, something real. And real is dangerous, dangerous to comfort zones, dangerous to conformity, dangerous to anyone hiding from their own reflection. Sometimes, for the first time in a long time, they feel like they can just be. Just by being around you, people feel lighter, calmer, more themselves. And the wildest part, you're not even trying. Your energy does the work. That's not your burden, it's their awakening. It creates a space that says, you don't have to pretend here. You can exhale now. You're safe. That's your medicine. You were born to radiate, to awaken, to stir, to shake what's asleep and, in doing so, make the world confront what it's been running from. The forced conversations, the shallow dynamics, and deep inside, you always knew you didn't belong there. Not because you were flawed, not because you were broken, but because you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out by standing in your truth. You make people feel safe, yes, but you also make them feel seen. And when someone is truly seen, their illusions start to fall apart. Some will thank you for it. Others will pull away. But nobody leaves unchanged. Never underestimate this gift. You weren't born to fix people. You were born to remind them of their own power. Chapter 13. You were born to disturb what's fake. You've probably felt it your whole life. That weird tension in rooms where everyone is pretending. The fake smiles. You weren't made to be polite in the face of lies. Your aura doesn't just glow, it disrupts. It enters a room quietly, but it rearranges the entire frequency. You don't let lies breathe easy. You don't let masks settle comfortably. You were never born to be neutral. You were born to be transformational. And transformation doesn't happen through silence and small talk. So don't dull your edge. Don't soften your fire. If this message hit something deep inside you, know this wasn't just content, it was a mirror. And you were meant to see it. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't designed to be background noise. So stop apologizing for your presence. Stop editing your truth just to fit their comfort zone. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them misunderstand. But promise me one thing, never, ever dim your light just to protect someone else's shadows. Your energy was never meant to be hidden. If this spoke to something inside you, if it reminded you of who you really are, like this video, share it with someone who's been doubting their own light. And subscribe because your energy isn't alone anymore. The end, but really, this is just the beginning. Let's rise together.